I'm Kristen, and until recently, I thought I had it all figured out. Tom and I had been married for 2 years, living in a beautiful apartment in a nice neighborhood. We both had good jobs. I worked at an advertising agency, and Tom headed sales at a sports nutrition company. Our plan was simple: save for a house, then start a family. We lived frugally, sharing one car. Every morning, Tom dropped me off at work before heading to his office. I'd make my own way home in the evenings. It wasn't always convenient, but we were determined. Then Tom's sister, Sarah, came to visit with her 2 kids. She was a single mom. Her husband had died in a car accident. Tom's parents, my in-laws, were super protective of her. They were always trying to make sure she didn't feel lonely, which is why they sent her to stay with us. When Sarah arrived, Tom was over the moon. "Isn't it great to have them here?" he said, helping with her bags. I nodded, trying to match his excitement. "Sure, it'll be nice to spend time together." At first, I thought Tom's attention to Sarah and her kids was sweet. He played with the children, listened to Sarah's problems, and bent over backward to make them comfortable. As the days passed, Tom's focus on Sarah intensified. He started demanding that I put her needs first, too. "Kristen, can you help Sarah with the kids' laundry?" Or, "Why don't you take Sarah shopping? She needs to relax." I was exhausted from work and now had to cater to Sarah's every whim. The breaking point came when Tom said, "Kristen, Sarah's going through a tough time. We need to make her stay as comfortable as possible. Can't you be more understanding?" I stared at him, disbelief washing over me. "Tom, I'm trying, but I'm tired too. I work all day, then come home to cook and clean for everyone. I need a break too." He frowned, clearly unhappy with my response. "Sarah's a single mom. She needs our support. You should be more sympathetic." As I watched Tom fuss over Sarah and her kids, a sinking feeling settled in my stomach. This wasn't just a visit anymore. Something had shifted, and I wasn't sure I was going to like where it was heading. Days turned into weeks, and Sarah showed no signs of leaving. I was exhausted, both mentally and physically. After long days at the ad agency, I'd come home to cook for everyone and clean up the mess. Tom's constant criticism was wearing me down. "Kristen, Sarah doesn't like spicy food. Can't you make something else?" Tom complained one evening. I bit my tongue, fighting back tears of frustration. "Tom, I'm doing my best. I'm tired too, you know. Sarah's with the kids all day. She's exhausted and has no time to cook," he shot back. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my cool. "I understand that, but—" "No buts, Kristen. We need to support her." I nodded silently, not wanting to start another argument. I got it. I really did. Sarah was going through a tough time, both mentally and physically. But I was tired of Tom's unfair reproaches. I couldn't wait for things to go back to normal. One evening, as I was scrubbing dishes after dinner, Tom dropped a bombshell. "Kristen, we need to talk," he said, leaning against the counter. I dried my hands, bracing myself. "What's up?" "Sarah's thinking of looking for a job here in the city," he said, a hint of excitement in his voice. I froze. "Oh? That's unexpected." "Yeah, isn't it great? But here's the thing," he continued, not noticing my discomfort. "I think you should quit your job and take care of the kids in the house." The dish I was holding slipped from my hands, clattering in the sink. "What? You can't be serious." Tom frowned. "Of course I am. Sarah needs to work, and someone needs to watch the kids." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Tom, I'm not quitting my job to take care of someone else's children. That's not fair." "Fair? What's not fair is expecting Sarah to manage everything on her own," he snapped. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "Okay, let's think about this. Where is Sarah planning to live if she gets a job here?" Before Tom could answer, Sarah walked into the kitchen, a smile on her face. "Oh, didn't Tom tell you? I'll be living here, of course, with my amazing brother. He understands me, supports me. I couldn't ask for a better brother." I stared at Tom, my eyes demanding an explanation. He shifted uncomfortably under my gaze. "Look, Kristen, can we discuss this later?" he said quickly, avoiding eye contact. "No, Tom, we need to talk about this now," I insisted, my voice trembling slightly. "I'm not okay with this arrangement. We can't all live together. It's too cramped in this apartment for 5 people." Tom's face lit up, as if he'd just remembered something wonderful. "But honey, don't you see? This is perfect. We were planning to buy a house anyway. Now we have even more reason to do it sooner. There'll be plenty of space for everyone." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Tom, that's not the point. We can't just—" But he cut me off mid-sentence, his attention already elsewhere. "Sorry, Kristen, we'll talk later. I promised the kids I'd play with them." And just like that, he was gone, leaving me standing in the kitchen, mouth agape, feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. From that day on, everything changed. Tom stopped driving me to work, always with the same excuse. "Sorry, babe, I'm really busy this morning." I knew he was lying, but I couldn't prove it. So, I found myself commuting on my own, both morning and evening, adding extra stress to my already hectic days. One afternoon, I came home early from work, hoping to get a head start on dinner. Instead, I walked into chaos. Sarah was sprawled on the couch, eyes glued to some trashy reality show, while her kids ran wild. "Sarah," I said, trying to keep my voice level, "what's going on here?" She barely glanced up. "Oh, hi, Kristen. The kids were bored, so I let them play." I looked around in horror. The walls were covered in crayon scribbles. There were mysterious stains on the couch, and my beloved houseplants, the ones I'd nurtured for years, were knocked over, soil spilling across the floor. "This isn't playing, Sarah. This is destroying our home." I couldn't keep the frustration out of my voice. Sarah just shrugged, her eyes already back on the TV. "They're just kids, Kristen. Lighten up." I took a deep breath, counting to 10 in my head. "Sarah, I thought you were looking for a job. Have you had any luck?" She waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, I've sent my resume everywhere, but nothing good has come up yet. They all want too much work for too little pay. I'm not desperate, you know." I bit my tongue, holding back the retort that threatened to spill out. Of course she wasn't desperate. She had a free ride here, with Tom and me footing the bill and doing all the work. That night, as Tom and I got ready for bed, I tried one more time to talk sense into him. "Tom, we need to set some ground rules. Sarah can't just let the kids run wild like that, and she needs to start contributing to the household chores." Tom sighed, looking exasperated. "Kristen, Sarah's going through a tough time. Can't you cut her some slack?" "Slack? Tom, I've been cutting her slack for weeks. Our home is being destroyed. I'm doing all the work, and you're acting like I'm the unreasonable one here." "Keep your voice down," Tom hissed. "You'll wake everyone up. Look, I know it's not ideal, but it's family. We have to stick together." As I lay in bed that night, listening to Tom's soft snores, I couldn't help but wonder, when did I stop being part of this family? And more importantly, how much longer could I keep living like this? As days turned into weeks, the situation at home only worsened. Tom seemed oblivious to the chaos his sister and her kids were creating. Whenever I tried to establish some order or ask the kids to clean up after themselves, Sarah would run to Tom with complaints. "Tom," I overheard her one evening, her voice dripping with fake concern, "I don't think Kristen likes the children. She's always yelling at them, forcing them to clean. They're just kids, you know?" I waited for Tom to defend me, to point out that basic tidiness wasn't child abuse. Instead, I heard him sigh heavily. "I'm sorry, Sarah. I'll talk to her." That night, Tom confronted me in our bedroom. "Look at this place, Kristen. It's a mess. If you can't keep it clean with the kids here, maybe—" "Maybe what, Tom?" I challenged, already knowing where this was going. "Maybe you should consider quitting your job. If you were home full-time, you could keep the house in order without putting so much pressure on the kids." I laughed bitterly. "So now it's child labor to ask kids to clean up after themselves?" Tom, do you hear yourself? But he wasn't listening. He'd been pushing this agenda for weeks now, and I was exhausted from fighting it. You know what, Tom? Fine. You want me to quit? I quit. His eyes widened in surprise. Really? You mean it? I nodded, a plan already forming in my mind. Yep, I'll call work tomorrow and tell them. Tom's face broke into a wide grin. He hugged me tightly, not noticing how stiff I was in his embrace. Oh, Kristen, this is great. You'll see, everything will be better now. The next day, I did call work, but not to quit. I spoke with my boss and explained that I needed to take a 3-month unpaid leave for family reasons. Thankfully, I'd recently trained an intern who could cover for me. My boss was understanding and approved my request. When I told Tom I'd quit, he beamed with pride, shooting a triumphant look at Sarah. See? I told you Kristen would come around. She understands the importance of family. As I watched them share their moment of victory, I felt like a stranger in my own home. But I reminded myself that this was temporary. 3 months. I'd given myself 3 months to see how this situation would play out, to see if Tom would realize the mistake he was making. The next morning, as Tom left for work, he kissed me on the cheek. Have a great day at home, honey. I know you'll do a fantastic job. I forced a smile, waving as he drove away. Then I turned to face the mess that awaited me inside. Sarah was already on the couch, TV remote in hand, while her kids ran around, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. From the day I quit my job, my life transformed into an endless cycle of chores and childcare. I'd wake up at dawn, prepare breakfast for everyone, pack Tom's lunch, and then spend the rest of the day cleaning, cooking, and looking after Sarah's kids. Meanwhile, Sarah lived like she was on a perpetual vacation. Days blurred together in a haze of domestic duties. Sarah would swan out of the house, off to shop or meet friends for coffee, leaving her children in my care without so much as a backward glance. I'd watch her drive away in Tom's car, while I was left stranded at home, juggling housework and childcare. Tom, for his part, seemed oblivious to the imbalance. He'd come home, kiss me on the cheek, and ask, "How was your day, honey?" As if I'd chosen this life, as if I was living my dream instead of his sister's. One evening, as I was serving dinner, a meal I'd spent hours preparing while Sarah napped, Tom made an announcement. "So, Sarah's birthday is coming up next month," he said, grinning. "I've got something special planned." Sarah clapped her hands excitedly. "Ooh, do tell!" Tom shook his head. "It's a surprise, but clear your schedule for the evening of the 15th. On the evening of Sarah's birthday, we all piled into Tom's car and headed to LeBlanc, the most expensive restaurant in town. It was the kind of place Tom and I used to dream about going for our anniversaries, but always decided the money would be better spent on our house fund. Tom's parents were already there when we arrived, cooing over Sarah and barely acknowledging my existence. As we settled into our seats, I couldn't help but feel like an outsider looking in on this family celebration. Throughout the meal, the conversation revolved around Sarah, her struggles, her strength, her dreams. I sat quietly, pushing food around my plate, feeling increasingly invisible. After the main course, Tom stood up, gently tapping his glass for attention. "I'd like to make a toast to my incredible sister, Sarah. You've been through so much, and you handle it all with such grace. I'm in awe of your strength." Sarah beamed, soaking in the praise. Tom continued, "And to celebrate your birthday, I have a special surprise." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. For a split second, my heart leaped. Was this all an elaborate ruse? Was he actually going to surprise me with a gift to thank me for my sacrifices? But then he turned to Sarah and held out the box. "Sarah, you've mentioned how hard it is getting around with the kids. So..." He opened the box, revealing a set of car keys. "Happy birthday, sis! Your very own car, just like you've always wanted." The table erupted in applause and exclamations of delight. Sarah jumped up, hugging Tom tightly. "Oh my God, Tom! I can't believe it. You're the best brother ever. I sat there, frozen in shock. A car. He had bought her a car. My mind flashed back to all the times I had mentioned needing a second car, all the times Tom had said we couldn't afford it, that we needed to save for our house. Tom, I said, trying to keep my tone even, can I ask why you bought such an expensive gift for Sarah? The table fell silent, all eyes turning to us. Tom's smile faltered slightly. Well, Sarah needs a car. She has 2 kids, and it's hard for her to get them to the park or the doctor. Plus, she'll need it when she starts working soon. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And what about me? I've been asking for a second car for months. Tom's expression hardened. You're at home all day, Kristen. You don't need a car. The injustice of it all hit me like a physical blow. How much did this car cost, Tom? He shifted uncomfortably in his seat. $20,000. The room started to spin. $20,000? Where did you get that kind of money? Tom cleared his throat. I took it from our joint account, but don't worry, I'll put it back as soon as I get my bonus at work. Something inside me snapped. You took our savings without even discussing it with me? That was our house fund, Tom. I want you to return that money right now. Kristen, Tom's mother gasped. How can you be so selfish? Your sister-in-law needs this car. But I was beyond caring about their opinions. Years of frustration poured out of me. Selfish? I've given up everything for this family. My job, my dreams, my identity. Tom's face was red with anger. If you're going to be so greedy and inflexible, fine. I'll take out a loan and put the money back in our account. Happy now? No, I shouted, beyond caring about the scene we were causing. I don't want you taking out a loan. I want you to sell the car and put our savings back where they belong. Sarah, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly spoke up. See, Tom? I told you she was controlling. She's trying to make you henpecked. Tom's parents nodded in agreement. Kristen, his father said sternly, you need to learn your place. Tom is the head of the household. I felt like I was drowning, surrounded by people who didn't see me as a person, just an accessory to their perfect family narrative. Tom stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. That's enough, Kristen. You've ruined everyone's evening with your behavior. Don't you know how to act in public? Tears stung my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I stood up, grabbing my purse. I'm leaving. Good, Tom shouted, no longer caring about the other restaurant patrons staring at us. Get out! You ungrateful freeloader. I'm the one who earns the money in this family, and you should be obeying me. Maybe if you got a job, you'd have a right to an opinion. His words hit me like physical blows. I wanted to scream that I hadn't actually quit my job, that I was on leave, but the words stuck in my throat. What was the point? They'd already made up their minds about who I was. As I walked out of the restaurant, I could hear Tom continuing his tirade. She lives off my hard work and then has the audacity to question my decisions. Can you believe it? The cool night air hit my face as I stepped outside, tears finally spilling over. I had never felt so humiliated, so angry, so done. I arrived at our apartment, my hands shaking as I fumbled with the keys. The nanny looked up in surprise as I burst in, tear-stained and disheveled. I went to our bedroom and pulled out my suitcase. With mechanical movements, I began packing my clothes, toiletries, and a few precious mementos. I left a note for Tom, brief and to the point. I'm staying at a hotel. Don't try to contact me. The hotel room was small and impersonal, but it felt like a sanctuary. For the first time in months, I could breathe without feeling the weight of expectations and disappointment crushing me. Sleep eluded me that night. I tossed and turned, replaying the evening's events in my mind. By morning, I knew what I had to do. As soon as the law offices opened, I made an appointment with a divorce attorney. Sarah Garcia came highly recommended, known for her fair but firm approach. Mrs. Johnson, she said, shaking my hand, tell me what brings you here today. I poured out my story, the gradual erosion of my marriage, the financial betrayal, the public humiliation. Sarah listened attentively, taking notes. "Based on what you've told me," she said when I finished, "you have a strong case for divorce. Your husband's actions with the joint account are particularly concerning. Let's draft the initial paperwork." Over the next few days, I threw myself into creating a new life. I found a small apartment, not far from my office. I called my boss and explained the situation, asking to end my leave early. She was understanding and welcomed me back with open arms. As I settled into my new routine, I hoped for an amicable divorce. I wasn't out for revenge, I just wanted what was fair. I suggested mediation to Tom, thinking it would be the quickest and least painful way to end things. "I'm not asking for much," I told him during our first session. "Just return the money you spent on Sarah's car, and we'll split the remaining joint account 50-50. Tom scoffed. "Return the money? That car was a gift to my sister. You're being ridiculous." The mediator tried to intervene, but it was clear Tom wasn't budging. After 3 fruitless sessions, I realized we'd have to go to court. The next few months were a blur of legal meetings, paperwork, and court appearances. Tom fought me every step of the way, painting me as a gold digger trying to rob his poor sister of her much-needed vehicle. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the judge made her ruling. The court finds that Mr. Johnson's use of joint funds to purchase a vehicle for his sister, without the consent of his spouse, was illegal. Mr. Johnson is ordered to reimburse Mrs. Johnson for half the value of the vehicle, as well as legal fees. I felt a wave of relief wash over me. It wasn't about the money, it was about justice, about having my voice heard and my rights recognized. Tom's face was a mask of fury as we left the courthouse. "I hope you're happy," he spat. "You've gotten your pound of flesh, you greedy, petty woman." Over the next few weeks, Tom complied with the court order, transferring the money to my account. I later learned he'd had to take out a loan to cover it, but I couldn't bring myself to feel guilty. He'd made his choices, and now we both had to live with the consequences. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, I had settled into a comfortable routine. My small apartment had become a haven, filled with peace and the simple joys I'd forgotten during my tumultuous marriage. I'd rekindled old friendships, thrown myself into my work, and even started a small herb garden on my balcony. For the first time in years, I felt like myself again. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon when I heard an unexpected knock at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I approached cautiously and peered through the peephole. My heart skipped a beat when I saw Tom standing there, looking disheveled and anxious. For a moment, I considered pretending I wasn't home, but curiosity got the better of me, and I opened the door. "Kristen," Tom said, his voice hoarse. "Can we talk?" I hesitated, then nodded, stepping aside to let him in. He looked around my apartment, taking in the cozy, organized space. "You look good," he said softly. "The place looks nice." "Thanks," I replied, my guard up. "What brings you here, Tom?" He sank onto my couch, running his hands through his hair. I messed up, Kristen. I see that now. I came to apologize and, well, to ask for your help." I sat in the armchair across from him, waiting silently for him to continue. "I lost my job," he blurted out. "The company downsized, and I was let go. I'm still paying off the loan for Sarah's car, and I'm barely making ends meet. Sarah, she refuses to sell the car or get a job. Says she's not ready yet." A part of me felt a twinge of satisfaction at hearing this, but I pushed it aside. "I'm sorry to hear that, Tom, but I'm not sure how I can help." He looked up at me, his eyes pleading. "The apartment is a disaster. Sarah doesn't clean, and the kids are out of control. The landlord's threatening to evict us because of the noise and mess. I realize now that you were right about everything. Sarah's not just going through a rough patch, she's taking advantage. And I let her." I sat there, taking in his words. The vindication I felt was bittersweet. Yes, I had been right. But at what cost? "Kristen," Tom continued, his voice breaking, "I know I don't deserve it, but I was hoping maybe we could start over." I've learned my lesson. I miss you, miss us. Maybe with your help, we could fix things. For a moment, I was transported back to the early days of our marriage. The love, the dreams we shared, the future we'd planned together. But then I remembered the betrayal, the humiliation, the months of feeling invisible and unvalued. I took a deep breath. Tom, I appreciate your apology, and I'm sorry you're going through a tough time. But I can't go back. His face fell. But Kristen, I've changed. I see things clearly now. I shook my head gently. The thing is, Tom, I've changed too. These past few months have shown me what I'm capable of, what I deserve. If you betrayed me once, who's to say you wouldn't do it again when things get tough? I wouldn't, he insisted. I've learned my lesson. Maybe you have, I conceded, but that doesn't change the fact that I'm happier now. I've found freedom in being on my own, in making my own choices without having to consider a partner who doesn't value my input. Tom's shoulders slumped. So that's it? There's no chance for us? I stood up, signaling the end of our conversation. I think it's best if you go, Tom. I truly hope things get better for you, but I'm not the solution to your problems. You need to stand on your own 2 feet and make your own choices. He nodded slowly, getting to his feet. At the door, he turned to me one last time. I really am sorry, Kristen, for everything. I know, I said softly. Goodbye, Tom. As I closed the door behind him, I leaned against it, letting out a long breath. A mix of emotions swirled within me. Sadness for the dreams we'd once shared, a touch of schadenfreude at Tom's comeuppance, but most of all, an overwhelming sense of relief and freedom. I'm Carla, and this is my story. After college, I dove headfirst into the working world. My parents had drummed it into my head since I was knee-high. Kids gotta stand on their own 2 feet. So there I was, fresh diploma in hand, hustling to find a job while my classmates were still nursing hangovers from grad parties. Landed a decent gig at a marketing firm. Nothing flashy, but it paid the bills. Found a tiny apartment too, more of a shoebox with a kitchenette, really. But it was mine, and that meant something. Meanwhile, my kid sister Lily, she was still living it up at home, not a care in the world. Mom and Dad fawned over her, like she was the second coming or something. Lily doesn't need to work, Mom would say, stroking my sister's perfect blonde hair. She's got her looks. That's her gift to the world. Don't get me wrong, I love Lily. But Christ, the difference in how we were raised. It was like night and day. I was pushed to study, get good grades, prepare for a career. Lily? She was told she was pretty. That was enough, apparently. One time, I overheard Dad talking to Lily. Sweetheart, you don't need to worry about college or jobs. Just focus on your beauty pageants. That's your future. Lily ate it up, of course. Why wouldn't she? She'd been in those damn pageants since she could walk. Wanted to be a model, she said. Until she found out models actually had to, work. Wait, they have to diet, and exercise, and learn languages? Lily had whined. That sounds hard, I don't want to do that. So instead, she just existed, at home, on our parents' dime. Me? I was busting my ass at work, pinching pennies, building up a little nest egg. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I'd earned it. I tried not to let it get to me, how different things were for us. But some nights, alone in my crappy apartment, eating microwave dinners and going over budget spreadsheets, yeah, it stung a bit. But that was life, right? Some people get the easy road, some don't. I told myself I was stronger for it, more prepared for the real world. If only I'd known what was coming. It was a Tuesday when everything changed. Just a regular Tuesday. I remember because I'd treated myself to takeout, a rare splurge. I was sitting on my secondhand couch, trying to ignore the springs digging into my back, when my phone rang. Mom's voice on the phone was shaky. Carla, honey, you need to come home. It's your father. He's had a stroke. We need your help. The drive to my parents' house was a blur of streetlights and worry. When I arrived, Mom looked like she'd aged 10 years overnight. Dad was in the hospital, stable, but weak. "I can't do this alone, Carla," Mom said, clutching my hand. "I'm working overtime to cover the medical bills. Can you help with your father's care?" "Of course," I agreed. What else could I do? I started sending money for a nurse and spending my weekends at my parents' house. It was exhausting, juggling work and family responsibilities, but I managed. Then came the kicker. "Carla," Mom said one Sunday evening as I was packing up to head back to my apartment, "why don't you move back home for a few months? It would save us the nurse fees and you'd be here all the time." I had my doubts. Big ones. But looking at Mom's exhausted face and thinking of Dad in his hospital bed, I caved. "Okay, Mom, I'll do it." So I packed up my little apartment, said goodbye to my neighbors, and moved back into my childhood bedroom. It felt surreal, like stepping back in time. The commute to work was a nightmare. An hour and a half each way if traffic was kind. But I gritted my teeth and bore it. This was for Dad, I reminded myself. Dad came home from the hospital a week after I moved back. He was frail, a shadow of his former self. But when he saw me, his face lit up. "My girl," he said, his words slurred but warm. "You're here." Those moments made it worth it. The gratitude in Dad's eyes, the way he'd squeeze my hand when I helped him with his exercises or brought him his meals. It wasn't easy, but it felt right. Mom, on the other hand, that was a different story. Nothing I did seemed to be enough for her. If I cooked, the food was too bland. If I cleaned, I missed a spot. If I spent an extra 5 minutes talking to Dad, I was neglecting my other chores. "Carla, I asked you to do the laundry hours ago," she'd snap. "And have you changed your father's sheets yet?" I bit my tongue, reminding myself that Mom was under a lot of stress. She was working long hours, worried sick about Dad, trying to keep everything together. But still, her constant criticism wore me down. One evening, after a particularly long day at work, followed by hours of household chores, I collapsed onto my bed, utterly exhausted. "Carla!" Mom's shrill voice cut through my moment of peace. "I need you to help your father with his bath." I dragged myself up, ignoring the protest of my aching muscles. As I helped Dad into the bathroom, he patted my hand. "You're a good girl, Carla," he said softly. "Don't know what we'd do without you." I smiled, feeling a lump in my throat. This was why I was here. This was what mattered. But later that night, as I lay in bed listening to Mom complain to someone on the phone about how Carla just doesn't seem to understand how much help we need, I couldn't help but wonder, why am I the only one trying to please everyone? As the days blurred together in an endless cycle of work and caregiving, I couldn't help but notice the glaring absence of my sister, Lily. While I was running myself ragged, Lily was living her best life, untouched by the family crisis. One afternoon, I caught a glimpse of her swanning out the front door, designer handbag swinging from her arm. "Where are you off to?" I called out, elbow deep in dishwater. Lily tossed her hair over her shoulder. "Oh, just meeting the girls for mani-pedis and lunch. Don't wait up." The door slammed behind her, leaving me in stunned silence. I looked down at my prune-like fingers, then at the mountain of chores still waiting for me. The contrast was so stark it was almost laughable. But the worst part? Lily's complete disregard for Dad's condition. She couldn't even bear to be in the same room when I was feeding him. I'd see her wrinkle her nose and dash off to her bedroom, plate in hand, muttering something about not having the stomach for it. One particularly grueling day, after a hellish commute and hours of overtime, I dragged myself home to find Mom in a state. "Carla, where have you been? Your father needs his dinner." I bit back a retort about having to work to pay for said dinner, and quietly went about preparing Dad's meal. As I spooned pureed vegetables into his mouth, careful not to spill a drop, an idea struck me. "Mom," I said cautiously, "have you considered maybe sending Dad to a specialized care facility?" Just for a while. The spoon clattered to the floor as Mom whirled on me, eyes blazing. "How dare you?" she shrieked. "Your own father, after everything we've done for you." "Mom, please listen. They have professionals there. They could help Dad recover faster, maybe even—" "Ungrateful!" Mom cut me off. "I knew it. You just don't want to help us. Well, let me tell you something, Missy. You'll do as I say in this house. If you can't handle it, there's the door." I stayed. I worked. I cooked. I cleaned. I cared for Dad. Every paycheck went straight into Mom's hands, ostensibly for household expenses and medical bills. I was back to being a teenager, asking for an allowance to buy necessities. One evening, as I was scrubbing the kitchen floor, I heard Lily's tinkling laugh from the living room. She was sprawled on the couch, FaceTiming with friends, planning their next shopping spree. "Oh my God, you have to see these shoes I bought today," she gushed. "They cost a fortune, but Daddy's credit card can handle it." I scrubbed harder, my knuckles turning white around the brush handle. Daddy's credit card. The same Daddy who couldn't feed himself. The same Daddy whose medical bills I was helping to pay. It was well past midnight when the front door banged open, startling me awake. I'd fallen asleep on the couch, a half-folded basket of laundry at my feet. Lily's high-pitched giggle echoed through the house, accompanied by a deeper, unfamiliar laugh. "Don't laugh so loud, you'll wake everyone up," Lily stage whispered, not sounding particularly concerned. I rubbed my eyes, squinting at the clock. 2:37 a.m. Great. Lily stumbled into the living room, dragging a tall, scruffy-looking guy behind her. "Oh, Carla!" she exclaimed, as if surprised to find me in my own home. "You're up!" "Meet Brad." Brad gave me a lazy salute. "Sup?" Before I could respond, Lily thrust her left hand in my face. A gaudy diamond ring glittered on her finger. "We're engaged!" she squealed. "Oh, and Brad's moving in. Hope that's cool." I stood there speechless as Lily dragged her new fiancé upstairs, leaving me with the echo of her giggles and the faint smell of alcohol. The next morning, I stumbled into the kitchen to find Mom fawning over Lily and Brad. "Oh, sweetie, I'm so happy for you," she gushed, refilling Brad's coffee cup. "You make such a handsome couple." I quietly poured myself some coffee, trying to make sense of this new development. Mom turned to me, her smile fading slightly. "You know, Carla, you should start thinking about settling down, too. You're not getting any younger." I nearly choked on my coffee. "Mom, I'm focusing on my career right now, and helping out here, remember?" Mom's eyes narrowed. She leaned in close, her voice dropping to a stage whisper. "Well, it's not like you have many options anyway. Who'd want such an ugly duckling?" The words hit me like a slap. I was used to Mom's backhanded comments, but this, in front of Brad? I felt my cheeks burn with humiliation. Lily snickered, and Brad looked uncomfortable, suddenly very interested in his coffee mug. I took a deep breath, trying to change the subject. "So, where exactly is Brad going to stay?" "The house is pretty full already, with Dad's medical equipment and all." Lily's eyes flashed. "What's that supposed to mean? You don't want us here?" "No, that's not—" I started, but Lily cut me off. "God, Carla, you're so jealous. Just because you can't find a man doesn't mean you have to rain on my parade." I gaped at her. "Jealous?" "Lily, I'm just trying to be practical. Dad needs—" "Oh, enough about Dad!" Lily snapped. "Everything's always about Dad with you. Maybe if you focused on yourself a little more, you wouldn't be so bitter and alone." "Girls, please," Mom interjected, but her stern look was directed solely at me. "Carla, mind your own business. Your sister is happy, and that's what matters." I stood there, stunned into silence. My own business? Wasn't this my business too? This was my home, my family. But looking at the three of them, Mom, Lily, and Brad, I suddenly felt like an outsider. As I got dressed, I could hear them laughing and chatting downstairs. The happy family. And where did I fit in? The ugly duckling, the bitter spinster, the ungrateful daughter. Just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, life decided to prove me wrong. Dad suffered another stroke, more severe than the first. This time, he was left almost completely paralyzed. He could still speak, but his words were slurred, barely comprehensible. It broke my heart to see him struggle. With Dad's condition worsening, I hoped, foolishly it turned out, that Lily might step up, that she'd finally realize the gravity of the situation and lend a hand. Boy, was I wrong. "Sorry, sis," Lily said, not sounding sorry at all. "Brad and I are trying to build a life together. We don't have time for all this." She waved her hand dismissively towards Dad's room. I couldn't believe my ears. "Build a life together? Lily, you're living in our parents' house, off their money and my income. The least you could do is help out." Lily's face hardened. "Don't be such a bitch, Carla. It's not our fault Dad got sick." "Girls!" Mom's sharp voice cut through our argument. "That's enough. Lily, dear, don't worry about it. You focus on your relationship. Carla can handle things here." I turned to Mom, incredulous. "Are you serious? Mom, they're not even working. They're just freeloading." Mom's eyes flashed dangerously. "Carla, how dare you? Brad isn't even related to your father. He has no obligation to help, and you should be grateful you can help your family. Some daughter you are, complaining about caring for your own father." Her words hit me like a physical blow. I stood there, mouth agape, as Mom stormed off, Lily smirking behind her. From that day on, life in the house became unbearable. I'd come home from work, exhausted, only to find Lily and Brad blasting music, laughing and carrying on as if it was their own private party pad. They'd leave their mess everywhere. Dirty dishes in the sink, clothes strewn about, empty beer bottles on every surface. And the food. God, the food! I'd spend my Sundays meal prepping, trying to get ahead for the week. But come Monday, all my carefully prepared containers would be empty. More than once, I found myself at work with nothing to eat, my lunch devoured by Lily and Brad's midnight munchies. I tried talking to Mom about it, multiple times, but it was like talking to a brick wall. "Mom, please," I begged one evening, after finding yet another empty fridge. "Can't you talk to Lily? This isn't fair. They're just existing, at our expense." "Not everyone is like you, Carla," Mom snapped. "Not everyone can be Miss Independent, working themselves to the bone. Lily's still finding herself. If you're so concerned about money, maybe you should pick up some overtime." I stared at her, disbelief warring with fury in my chest. "Overtime? Mom, I'm already working 60-hour weeks. I'm taking care of Dad, running the household, and apparently feeding 4 adults on my salary alone. When exactly am I supposed to sleep?" Mom waved off my concerns. "You're young. You can handle it. Now stop obsessing over your sister and focus on your own responsibilities." I walked away from that conversation, feeling like I'd stepped into the twilight zone. How had this become my life? When had I become the bad guy for expecting basic decency and contribution from my own family? The days blurred together in an endless cycle of work, chores, and caregiving. I was exhausted, physically and emotionally drained. More and more, I found myself daydreaming about my old life, my tiny apartment, the blessed silence, the freedom. God, how I missed it. One night, after a particularly trying day, I broached the subject with Mom. "Mom, I've been thinking," I started cautiously. "Maybe we should consider hiring a nurse again. I could move back to my place, but still help out financially and visit often." Mom's face crumpled. "How can you even suggest that? After everything we've done for you?" I blinked, taken aback. "Everything you've done for me?" "You're so heartless, Carla," Mom wailed, tears springing to her eyes. "How can you abandon your father like this? It's your duty to help us. Your duty!" Guilt washed over me, dousing my resolve like a bucket of cold water. I'd never been good at standing up to Mom's tears. "I'm sorry," I mumbled. "You're right. I'll stay." And so I did. I stayed and I helped, and I endured, until the day everything changed. I came home from work, bone-tired as usual, to find Lily lounging in the hallway, a self-satisfied smirk on her face. "Oh, good. You're home," she chirped. "I've got a surprise for you." Alarm bells rang in my head. Lily's surprises were never good news for me. She led me to my room, or what used to be my room. I stood in the doorway, shocked into silence. All my things were gone, replaced by racks of clothes, shoes, and makeup. My bedroom had been transformed into a walk-in closet. What is this?" I finally managed to sputter. Lily beamed. "Isn't it great? Now I have space for all my things." "But where are my things? Where am I supposed to sleep?" Lily's smile turned condescending. "Oh, don't worry. We put your stuff in some boxes in the garage. You can sleep on the couch in the living room. I mean, you're basically the help now, right? You don't need a whole room." Something in me snapped. For the first time in my life, I saw red. I stormed into the kitchen, where Mom was preparing dinner. "Mom!" I shouted, my voice shaking with rage. "Did you know about this? Lily's taken over my room. She says I have to sleep on the couch." Mom barely looked up from her cooking. "Yes, dear. Lily needs the space for her things. You'll be fine on the couch." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Fine on the couch? Mom, I live here too. I work here. I take care of Dad. I run this household. And now I don't even get a room?" Mom sighed, like I was being particularly difficult. "Carla, your sister deserves a nice dressing room. You're barely here anyway, always at work. The couch will do just fine." I stood there, trembling with anger and disbelief. Then a thought struck me. Dad. Dad would understand. Dad would take my side. I marched to his room, Mom trailing behind me. Dad was propped up in bed, his eyes following our movement. "Dad," I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. "Lily's taken over my room. She and Mom say I have to sleep on the couch now. After everything I've done, all the care I've given you, they're treating me like I don't even live here." I waited for Dad to protest, to defend me, to show some appreciation for all I'd sacrificed. Instead, he smiled weakly and said in his slurred speech, "It's okay, Carla. Lily needs the space. You're a good girl. You understand." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Mom nodded approvingly. "See?" she said. "Your father agrees. Besides, you're only here temporarily. Once he's better, you'll move out again anyway." I stood there, frozen in disbelief. The shock of my father's words, my mother's casual dismissal of my feelings, it all crashed over me like a tidal wave. In that moment, something inside me shattered. Without a word, I turned on my heel and marched out of Dad's room. I could hear Mom calling after me, but I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. My feet carried me to the garage, where I found my life unceremoniously packed away in cardboard boxes. My hands were shaking as I started pulling out suitcases, shoving clothes and personal items inside. I didn't bother folding anything. I just needed to get out. "Carla? Carla, what are you doing?" Mom's voice cut through the haze of my fury. I didn't look up from my packing. "What does it look like I'm doing? I'm leaving." "Don't be ridiculous," Mom snapped. "You can't leave. Your father needs you. We need you." I barked out a laugh, harsh and humorless. "Oh, you need me all right. You need my money. You need my labor. But you don't need me. Not the real me." "Stop being so dramatic," Mom said, her voice rising. "I forbid you to leave this house." That made me pause. I straightened up, looking my mother in the eye. "Forbid me? I'm an adult, Mom. You can't forbid me to do anything. I'm not sleeping on a couch like some beggar in my own home. I'm done being your personal maid and ATM. I'm done with the ingratitude, the disrespect, all of it." Mom's face paled. But your father, you can't abandon him like this. Maybe you could rent an apartment nearby? You could still come over to help, to cook and clean." I stared at her, incredulous. Even now, she was still trying to use me. "No," I said, my voice firm. "No, I won't be doing that. I'm done helping. I'm done communicating. I'm just done." I shouldered past her, dragging my suitcase behind me. As I reached the front door, I turned back one last time. "And Lily? Your precious baby girl who can do no wrong? She's a leech, and you're letting her bleed you dry. But that's your problem now, not mine. Mom's face contorted with rage. How dare you? After everything we've done for you, you ungrateful little… I slammed the door, cutting off her tirade. My hand was shaking as I pulled out my phone and called a cab. As I waited on the front step, suitcase by my side, I could hear Mom's muffled shouts through the door. Scoundrel! Ingrate! How could you do this to your family? Family. The word tasted bitter in my mouth. Was this really what family was supposed to be? The cab pulled up, and I loaded my suitcase into the trunk. As we pulled away from the curb, I didn't look back. I couldn't bear to see the house that had once been my home, the place where I'd given everything only to be treated like nothing. I found a small studio apartment across town. It wasn't much, but it was mine. That first night, sleeping on a hastily purchased air mattress, I felt a weight lift off my chest. For the first time in months, I could breathe. The peace lasted exactly 3 days. I was scrolling through social media on my lunch break when I saw it. A post from Mom. There was Dad, looking frail in his hospital bed. The caption made my blood run cold. Pray for us. Our eldest daughter has cruelly abandoned us in our time of need. How could she do this to her dying father? The comments flooded in, relatives and family friends expressing shock and disgust at my supposed heartlessness. I felt sick. But then something snapped. Enough was enough. I wrote my own post, laying out the whole ugly truth. The months of thankless labor, the financial drain, Lily's freeloading, the room theft. I never wanted it to come to this, I wrote, but I won't be painted as the villain in someone else's story. The response was immediate. The tide of public opinion turned. Suddenly, I was flooded with messages of support. Apologies from those who'd been quick to judge. It should have felt like vindication. Instead, I just felt tired. Weeks passed. I threw myself into work, trying to rebuild my savings. But guilt nagged at me. Had I done the right thing? Should I have stayed, no matter the cost to myself? Then, the call came. Dad had passed away. This is your fault, Mom spat through the phone. Don't you dare show your face at the funeral. I didn't. I sat in my apartment, alternating between tears and numbness, mourning not just my father, but the family I'd lost long before his death. Time marched on. 3 years passed in the blink of an eye. I worked hard, saved every penny. Finally, I had enough for a down payment on a small, cozy apartment of my own. No more renting, no more instability. I was building my own future, brick by brick. And then, another call. Mom's voice, older now, tinged with desperation. Carla? We need your help. We had to sell the house, Lily's debts, and Brad left her. We have nowhere to go. Can we stay with you? Just until we get back on our feet? I closed my eyes, memories washing over me. The sleepless nights, the thankless days, the constant demands, the casual cruelty. No, I said, my voice calm and firm. I'm sorry, but no. Please don't call again. I ended the call, my hand shaking slightly as I set down the phone. For a moment, I sat there, half expecting guilt to overwhelm me. But it didn't come. Instead, I felt peace. The peace of knowing my worth. The peace of setting boundaries. The peace of choosing myself.